Hello and welcome to Practical Knife Reviews. Today for you we have basically a Swiss Army knockoff from a brand with a very fun name, Sharp, as opposed to dull. So, of course it is good to have a sharp knife, but this is literally a sharp knife. Made in, let's see if I can get it on the camera, Czechoslovakia. So I don't know exactly when this was made. It's hard to come up with any information when you just Google sharp knife on this brand in particular. I have found that it appears, at least a few people have mentioned being able to get this knife at Kmart in the past. And there was also a company that made Sharp branded knives in the USA at some point. I have no idea if this is the same company or not. I can't find any information on the company itself. But what I can tell you is that this knife was made before 1993. How do I know that? Czechoslovakia stopped existing in 1993. But in any case, we've got a spear point blade. It's a little bit more narrow than on the traditional Swiss Army knives. We've got hawkbill style can opener, which personally I like a little bit more than the Swiss Army can openers, but that's probably just me. We've got a bottle opener. We've got a little spot for a wire stripper here. This flathead screwdriver. Wire stripper, for those of you who are wondering how that would strip a wire, because it's not sharp or anything. Put the wire in there. You open the blade on the other end. You put the wire in there. You close the wire in there. Then you drop the blade on it. And you rotate the wire and it strips the wire. We've also got a corkscrew. There's an issue with this, which is that when the corkscrew closes, it doesn't happen every time, but when it closes, sometimes it'll land right on top of the liner. So when you're closing it, you have to pull it to this way a little bit. And it's also got an awl. But let's look at how it does for slicing first. Grab some paper. Here, we've got some paper. Do I have this knife sharp? Do I have the sharp? The sharp is, oops, that one was me. Caught the paper at a weird angle. The sharp is sharp, which is, I'm going to be saying that over and over again because it's just fun to say it. Let's try cardboard real quick. Super easy through that. Oops, got caught up a little bit there. Try one more. Yeah, not bad. The first one was really easy. The last two weren't quite as easy. Let's see how we do on an apple. Now, these Swiss Army knives are very comfortable to hold in a reverse grip because they're rectangular, so you can hold them in basically any grip and it feels equally comfortable, just about. Now, the caveat is that I'm a bad apple peeler. I don't peel apples except for cooking and for this channel, but not bad. The thinness makes it a little bit tricky to try to find the angle. So there's spots where I'm getting a little bit too thick and spots where I'm getting a little bit too thin, but the edge is nice and sharp, and once you find that angle, it glides through pretty well. It's just, I'm bad, and it doesn't really lend itself to basically finding the angle on its own. You have to basically manually find the angle. There's the apple for you, Ma.
All right, I'm hungry.
Okay, let's try some feather sticking to see how this blade works in wood. So this is pine, this is a softwood, and the edge is sharp. Now this is a slip joint, as most Swiss Army knives are. So there's no lock. If you get it embedded deep and you try to pull it out, it'll pull it towards you a little bit, and it doesn't have the strongest spring on it. This is like a 4 probably in terms of pull. But the kick is right there. You can put your finger under the kick to basically act as a secondary semi-lock. Just for a little bit of added safety. Not that it's going to prevent you entirely, but you can see that it wants to close a little bit on the back pull. Yeah, you see what happened there? So that's what I'm talking about when you get it embedded deeper into the wood and when you try to pull it back. Doesn't want to come out super well. So those aren't great feathers, but there was very little effort. The feathers just themselves didn't come out great. Let's try on, this is oak, red oak, hardest wood we've got in our forest. Now this, again, not a ton of effort that I'm putting into it. It's a little bit tricky to try to get long strokes just because of the fact that it's wanting to close a little bit on me. So I'm having to consciously ensure that that does not happen. But not a ton of effort going into this because the edge geometry is quite thin. Not bad feathers. And yeah, we'll look at opening a bottle of wine. I've got to cook right after we shoot this. And I'm cooking with white wine in this recipe, so we'll try the corkscrew, see if it works. I know that that works because I've used it before. I don't have any bottles to test that on, so you're just going to be stuck with having to take our word for it. The awl is mildly sharpened, so not sharp enough to cut, but it is sharpened enough to use it as a scraper, which is good for me because the awl is probably the tool I use the most on these camp style knives. So we'll be back in 1 second to take a further look at the Sharp style, Swiss Army styled knife from Czechoslovakia. So now we're just going to test how the Sharp Swiss Army style camp knife corkscrew works, because we got to do some cooking. So I'm going to reopen our bottle of cooking wine. I drove that cork down in there, and I'm going to, well, there's no real hole on this side because this is the bottom of a cork from a different bottle that I stuck in here. But we'll see how we do. Now I really should probably be turning the corkscrew and not the bottle, but you know, do what you gotta do. Now let's, okay, that actually worked quite well. Much better than, if you remember, we tested the corkscrew on that old Imperial from Ireland camp knife. This was much easier. And the handle was much nicer as well to hold on to during that process. The only real flaw with the corkscrew is that, like I said, if you're not careful, it will catch right there, unless you pull it that way. So that'll be it for the look at how the corkscrew works on the Sharp Swiss Army style camp knife. And we're back on Practical Knife Reviews. We're taking a look at the Sharp brand Swiss Army style knife. Again, we've got blade, we've got hawkbill can opener, we've got wire stripper, bottle opener, screwdriver, small blade. Oh, I didn't test the sharpness of the small blade, but I know it's sharp. Large blade, corkscrew, which sometimes closes. You can see there's a divot there right where the thing hits sometimes. And an awl. Made in Czechoslovakia, which is the notable thing about it for me. It is the only knife I have from Czechoslovakia. I've got a knife from the Czech Republic. We've reviewed it on the channel before. Look for the Mykov Yadniker, or Yadmesser knife that we reviewed on the channel previously. That one's made in the Czech Republic. This was made pre-1993 when it was still Czechoslovakia. So that's what made it notable for me. I found it in the camping section downstairs, and it was, yeah, it needed some love and care, so I fixed it up, and that's what we've got here. Ma, why don't you comment on this knife while I get some measurements going?
Oh, the red matches your Elmer Fudd Stormy Cromer uniform perfectly.
Oh,
that's
wow.
what Mom's like. And actually, the only two blades that can open are the small and large blade. The rest of the tools are too hard for me to pull.
Looking at 3.5 inches closed with the large blade open. It is 6 1/4 inches open, blade length 2 3/4, cutting length of 2 3/8, I'd say 2 3/8 inch cutting length. Well, you can keep talking about it while I get the weight ready.
I mean, it's a good practical little camp knife, other than the fact that I have a difficult time opening any of the other tools other than the blades. But the blades, you know, work really well.
Yeah, and it's also worth mentioning that the corkscrew does fall onto the liner, and we haven't tested the corkscrew yet. Forgot to do it before we did this, but it'll appear earlier in the video. So whatever you saw in the video prior to this is how well the corkscrew works. You can see it's 2 ounces, so it's quite light for all that you're getting here, which is 58 grams. It is a very, very lightweight Swiss Army style knife. So I guess that's all that we'll say next we're gonna record the corkscrew part, but you will have already seen it, so you'll know how well it opens a bottle of cooking wine. So let us know what you think. Let us know what you think of the Sharp brand Swiss Army style camp knife. Let us know if you know anything else about this company. Like I said, I couldn't really find anything because no matter what you Google, if you Google Sharp knife brand, you come up with 800 million results, none of which are related to the Sharp knife brand. So let us know what you think. Let us know if you have any knives from this company, and let us know if you know anything else about the history. Ma, did you have any other comments?
No, that's it.
Okay, that'll be it for this episode of Practical Knife Reviews, and we'll see you again very soon. Take care, everyone.